Hey guys, I want to spend just a few minutes talking about lust, especially as it applies to depression. Now, this is kind of going to be a factor in life. Lust kind of goes under different names for different things, but it's the same attitude. The idea that, well, I want that. It's like coveting, desiring, a fixation on something. When your thoughts are consumed by something, when there's something that you shouldn't and couldn't have, and yet you still want it. You want to have possession over it. You want to only focus on your own pleasure. That kind of is an attitude that is related to all these things. Less is typically about sexual things, especially if you look on like the dictionary. But the attitude underneath really is this: I'm not content. I want more. Feed me. I'm a monster pit. So it's kind of it, lusting is something that can definitely be bigger and more than just sexual things. Now, everyone lusts for something. For some people, they lust the life that God didn't give them. Especially people who have health issues. Man, if only I had their body, then all my problems would be solved. People who, let me think of another example. Lusting after the lover you don't have, regardless of whether you have a relationship or don't have a relationship. That idea that my happiness would be found in that relationship, lusting after them. Oh, they're the perfect person, and I want them. I desire them. I need them in my life. Everybody's gonna have some passing lust. Like, you're gonna see that, and you're gonna have this desire in your heart that I want that. But the trick is, don't let it play in your mind, because that's really where the problem really comes in. You see a girl, you think she's pretty, move on. You don't need to sit there thinking about it, especially if you're in a relationship already. For some people, they lust after the hotter body. If only I was skinnier, or taller, or shorter, or whatever. Lusting really goes against contentment, and it kind of has this idea that, God, what you made isn't good enough. And rather than learning to be content, I'm going to say that my contentment is over the hill. And then we never get over that hill, because you can't just change out your body. You can't just change things. It doesn't work like that. You're not in complete control over your life. You can't just make somebody cheat with you, and then even if you do, you can't make them stay with you. I mean, just you don't have control in those kinds of situations. Lusting really goes against the idea of contentment. If you want to be happy in life, if you want to be content, hey, I'm good. Lusting is not for you. Lusting deteriorates it. It makes sure that you cannot be happy. You see married people do this too. If I was single, I'd be happy. Okay. Lusting really makes you unhappy. Excuse me. Just ate pizza. But there is a kind of way to start working on this, way to start growing past this. First off, accept what you have. Rather than looking at all the things you don't have, accept what you do have. Thank God for what you have. Be thankful for it. So the first thing was accept it. This is what I got. That has to be good enough. Well, if I had that, then I'd be happy. No. Then there is something else that you need. You just have to accept this is where I'm at, and that's okay. It's not a competition between you and everybody else. It's not a competition between you and your wildest fantasies. You gotta just enjoy life for what it is, rather than always looking for it to be something else. And then the second thing was that thanking God for what you have. Just being thankful. So many times we spend most of our energy just complaining and looking at the bad side of everything. Just learn to be thankful for what you do have, and then voice that thankfulness. You might say, well, I don't believe in God. Okay, that's fine. Still voice your thankfulness to yourself, to others. Still, it's just a good idea to get into that. Realize everything has problems. Sometimes we think, oh, if I was in that relationship, there'd be their own problems that you'd have to overcome. They have a perfect marriage. They have a perfect home. Everything has problems. When you sugarcoat something, that actually shows how immature your thinking is about it, because if you're not able to discern the negative trait of something, that's bad. Like if you're in a relationship with someone and you're thinking about getting married or something, and you can't see their faults, that's bad. Now, you don't want to be someone who's nitpicking all the time, but still, you should be able to see their problems. Um, yeah, everything has problems. Even in that relationship, and that dream that you dream might not be so sweet. You get it, it might not be. Oh well, she's so beautiful. If I just had her, yeah, your personalities would not get along. I mean, even if you did, a little dose of somebody is a lot different than a big dose. Also, did you ever think that they might not be on board with the whole cheating thing? Oh well, I know that they're on board with the cheating thing. Well, that's probably not great. How do you know? But even then, when you actually get with someone, the dynamic changes. It's like the difference when you marry someone. You could even live with the person beforehand. You could even have sex before marriage. But after marriage, there's just a dynamic that changes. And it's just different. It's just different. Some people describe it as being a honeymoon phase and then getting out of that. That's good enough. You can kind of. It's something that you really don't understand until you've lived through it. Just take my word for it on this one before you make any really stupid mistakes. That dream might not be so sweet as you think it is. And when you're able to objectively look at it and say, that's a pretty big problem. Would we be able to resolve that? And if you are already married, you shouldn't be trying to resolve that. Lusting really isn't a great thing because, like, there's a story in the Bible where this dude is lusting after his sister. And so he ends up raping her. And then as soon as he's done, it says that he's just over her. It's like, oh. See what I mean? And there's some things that we think we lust after and we think we have to have that. But then when we get it, sometimes it's like, oh, maybe I was wrong. Maybe my desire was wrong. Maybe I was in love with being in love. Maybe I was in love with wanting, not actually in love. And there's just a lot of different things that you have to consider with lust. Lust is a really big, heavy topic. But when you lust, you won't be happy. And it never ends well when you seize that thing which you lust for. You think, oh, if I could just have it. No, but when you reach out and grab it, something changes. You change, the person or the thing has problems, and the dynamic changes between the two of you. It changes your relationships with other people. Like, let's say you have a friend or whatever, and they're like put off by your obviously lack of self-control and just kind of grossness, and then there's a new wall there, and family gets disrupted, and it never works out like you think. And so now, as it applies to depression, lust really makes your depression worse, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Obviously, you get into a relationship, and then somebody cheats on you, or whatever, you feel thrown away, or you cheat on someone. It just kind of does a number on your emotional well-being. I don't know how else to say it. Every time you sleep with someone, it connects you to that person, and when you stop feeling a connection with people that you sleep with, that's a sign of immaturity, severe psychological trauma. These aren't good things. Like, oh no, I can just sleep with whatever girls I want, and I'll be fine. That's not a good thing. That's not something to be bragging about. So it really does make your depression worse. And here's the thing, it gives you an object for your sorrow. Sometimes when you have depression, you're just sad and you don't know why. But when you're lusting after something and you have depression, then your depression kind of like singles that thing out. And it makes you think about it even more, especially if you have something like anxiety. And you kind of focus in on that thing, and now you have an object for your depression. So in your brain, it says something along the lines of this. That is why I'm depressed. If I had that, if I could change that. And it just does something up here. It changes the way you think too, and it distracts you. It makes it harder for you to obtain happiness and contentment. It puts like a wall and a barrier between your problem-solving skills. It takes a lot of energy out of you and doesn't offer you much in return. Maybe some sexual pleasure, but sexual pleasure is pretty fleeting. So you really have to stop and think, is this really worth it? I'm sacrificing my mental health, even if you don't care about the person that you're, betraying, even if you don't care about the person you're lusting after or the situation you're lusting after. Still, it's going to do a number on yourself anyways, even if you are that selfish. So that's just something to think about. When you lust for something, it seems hot. It seems like it would fulfill you, like it would make you happy. But kind of like you need it. or you have to have it, but it never works like you think it's going to work. And it's always more complicated. And then it just has this way of keep getting more and more complicated. It's better. Some people say something along the lines of this. They say, okay, it's just better this way. It's better that I lust after this girl than that I actually leave my wife. My wife doesn't have sex with me anyways. It's better that I lust after this rather than maybe it's better that I look at porn rather than commit adultery. It's better that I have a crush here or a girl that I flirt with or whatever rather than cheating. I'm just getting a little bit of tickling the bear or whatever you want to say. Here's the problem with that is that it snowballs. It always snowballs. It spreads to other areas of your life, to other relationships, to other aspects. Like, let's say, for instance, you have that unhappiness with your partner, and then it turns into unhappiness with the new person, and then unhappiness with friends, and it just gets ugly, and then you get really unsatisfied in life, and then your depression comes back even worse. Lusting is not great. It's not a win. Now, there's sometimes when the Bible tells us not to do stuff that it doesn't really clarify, but then there's other things that it tells us not to do things, and it's really for our best that we just listen. I'm not religious. That's fine. There's still some things in there that you should probably listen to even if you aren't religious, like where it says, hey, don't co-sign on a loan. You probably shouldn't co-sign on a loan because then the person will, default or whatever, and you're screwed. And, things are always more complicated than they seem. There's no way you can plan for every single problem. And then another thing with lust is it grows. So it's snowballing. It rolls down the hill and it's bigger and faster and bigger. More problems. You lose more self-control. It spreads to other things. It grows. Your lust will grow if left unchecked. There was one time after I got married that there was this girl that I just I had a total connection with. Head over heels, had such feelings for her. And so I told my wife, I said, I'm having a really hard time with this person. We can't. She worked at a restaurant. I said, we can't go to this restaurant anymore. We got to do something else. I can't stop thinking about her. We need to do something else. So I included my wife in the conversation, and yeah, it hurt her, but I guarantee you it would have hurt her a lot more had I, kept going to the restaurant. Had I started flirting with her, had I, started thinking about her while we were being intimate, there's just a lot of things there that it's it grows. Lust grows. You're lusting after this girl, you're going to lust after these girls now. You're going to lust after these, see what I mean? It grows, it morphs, it changes. Maybe at first you were just lusting after a girl, and then it turns into something darker. Something dark. And these are just things that happen with lust. Lust cannot be left unchecked. It will make your depression skyrocket, and even if you go out and get that thing, you're going to think that it makes you so happy, and then it won't, and your depression will at an all-time high, and then morality will go out the door as you try to find something that satisfies you, or you'll go to a dark place, and neither of those things are good. So it's really just best if you get help with your lust. Take action. And by the way, watching others cheat is still cheating. So if you're watching porn or something with people cheating because you think that's hot, that's still cheating, and should probably be something that you consider. Okay, I hope that this was helpful for you guys. I'll see you later.